Twitch is back. See if YouTube's coming back. All right, looks like YouTube's back online again too. Let me get my chat back up. All right, looks like everything's back up. So let me just get YouTube back and correct with the descriptions. It's really annoying that the YouTube doesn't just link the streams together when they're so close together. I might be missing a setting or something. But yeah, again, it was just this laptop lost Wi-Fi again. I'm gonna have to dig down into the settings, do some Googling, and see if I can figure out why it keeps dropping on me like this, just randomly. Waiting for YouTube to catch up. So while we're waiting on that, I'm just gonna continue tightening these down. YouTube still hasn't caught up on the back end. So I went into the router settings for my Xfinity router, which if you didn't know, Xfinity is a internet service provider, and they don't have anywhere where I could find MTU. What does MTU stand for? Well, hello, Sloth. Sloth? Is that Sloth? Yeah, it's Sloth. What are you saying damn dude about? Oh, I haven't seen that. Did I miss something? Maximum transmission unit? Hey, I actually like doing this stuff. But now I've got to order something else. It announced today. Oh, see, I wasn't on the site today at all. So that explains everything. Maximum transmission unit. So what is it? What's the benefits? Sell me on it. $20 for upgrade? Oh, that's, yeah, dude. I mean, I'll do one printer at a time, but still, you know, worth it if it's good benefits. It's like a booster for Wi-Fi. So what is it like? So instead of having the Eensy Rambo that you have to add a Raspberry Pi to, a Raspberry Pi Zero to get Wi-Fi and run Octoprint, it's like built in. Oh, no, I'm sorry. We're talking two different conversations here. I apologize, Flavors. You're talking about maximum trains. Okay, so you're talking about my Wi-Fi, so I'll look into that. But what about the Mk3S? I've had the Mk3 for a year. Majors with the filament sensor, false readings, stopping print for no reason, not detecting when filament was actually running out. New sensor should be better. So I just assembled my Mk3. I had the Mk3 kit. I pre-ordered it the second day it was available, way back when. got it on, I think, December 5th, 2017. Just assembled it, like literally just finished it last week. And I've been loving it. It's back there right behind me. It's not printing anything at the moment. So I haven't had any problems with it because I haven't had it for very long. I've read a lot of people have problems. I mean, it's a tool. All tools have their intricacies. If you learn their intricacies and learn how to use it correctly, you know, it will work good for you. But I've never had a problem with the filament sensor yet. I've actually been really impressed with how it works for auto loading the filament. It's fantastic. So there's a new filament sensor. Sloth, what else is new for the Mk3S? Oh, so just the filament sensor, that's it? I shouldn't have to take it all apart then. Just the extruder. Why isn't YouTube catching up? I'm gonna have to look that up after stream. See what's going on with that. Yeah, I'm still waiting on my powder coated PEI sheet. Oh, as if it just got announced today, then I'm again out of the loop on that. I haven't had any problems with the filament sensor on the Mk3 back there. As I was saying, I've actually really liked not having to kill my thumbs against screws to load filament. It's been loading and unloading filament. And I have to unload and unload filament every time I'm using the printer if I'm not going to print something again. My basement's really humid and been printing a lot of PETG, so I can't leave the filament out. And you still shouldn't leave out even PLA, even though PLA is hygroscopic, yeah. So it doesn't absorb water. It still does. I actually was talking with messaging with somebody on Facebook in one of the Mk3 groups, and they were talking about they worked in plastic their entire life, and PLA will still absorb water. Yeah, no, the regular PEI sheets, you know, because sometimes I want smooth surface. So I'm going to like having, once they finally get it to me, I'm going to like having both, having a choice of whatever surface I want to use. All right, so got that all screwed down. Perfect. So that's all screwed down. Got all six. Yep, all six. This one came from the extra kit here. So now we're going to be placing the Z screw covers. So the great thing is that's already done for me. So there's my trapezoidal nuts. And since this was from the Mk2S, I've already got the Z covers on there, so I don't have to spend that entire time screwing those things down on there. So now I need the 8 M10 screws. Thanks, Sloth, and thanks for letting me know about the Mk3S. I will look into that right after the stream. I wonder if it's using, instead of using the really highly sensitive filament sensor they're using now, what I mean by sensitive is breakable. If it uses, I've seen people use the Pinda probe with a ball bearing or bearing of sorts. So whenever there's not filament in the channel, the ball bearing goes down. Oh, so it's IR filament sensor plus cable PPF tube, pan shroud, black bolts and fasteners, textile sleeve. Okay. So it's an IR filament. So it's an IR filament sensor. Wow, it's an infrared. I wonder if it can read diameter if it's infrared. Because to me that sounds like that there's an emitter on one side and a receiver on the other. And if that receiver's got a resolution to it, M3 times 10 times 8, 4, 8, perfect. Then you should be able to read filament sensor diameter. They probably use something like that on their when they're making their Prusa mint. So, all right, let's continue on with this. So now we're going to put our X motors. So we want to make sure that the cabling for our X motors are in the correct orientation. And we want to make sure that our wires are on the correct orientation. So we want the shorter cable to be on the left side because that's where the EC board is going to be. And we want the longer cable to be on the right side. And then we're going to place them. So I'm going to kind of just do opposite of what we did when we took it apart. I am just going to lift up the entire frame and carefully drop it down. That's right in the way there. There we go. All right, so now I should be able to so I don't know if that even really should facilitate an S addition to the name with just updating the filament sensor. I mean, when you updated to the Mk2S, there was a bunch of other upgrades that it entailed. I don't remember them all. I never had an Mk2. I got into Prusa printers with the Mk2S, but there were quite a few upgrades from the Mk. Or was it just the U-bolts? No, it was just the U-bolts, wasn't it, on the Mk2S? Okay, so maybe it does fit his naming scheme. So again, going back to the to the build here, whenever you're threading these screws into the motor, be very careful not to cross any of the threads and strip the motor's threaded threads, because you are gonna be screwed if you do. No fun. All right, so now that I got those on there, I'm gonna get them tightened up the rest of the way. Using that diagonal tightening process from before, where you just start with, in this case, the bottom right, and then go on to the top left. I was getting it tight and then tightening it just a tiny bit more. So we are tightening it to plastic parts, so we don't want to. So you're looking at the website now, Flavorist? Is it already up for pre-order? They reduced the time for the delivery on the 3S upgrade. I would imagine if it's only those couple of little pieces, that's a lot easier to provide those parts, so that, you know, some of the other upgrades have been difficult, like the PEI sheet out of the textured PEI coated sheet. That's a difficult product to produce, very specialty. I'm sure their IR sensor is not as special to only this printer kind of product. All right, got that on there. So now we want to, for the following steps, trapezoidal nuts, part 1. You want to get those out, perfect. And then we're going to need 4 M3 nuts and 4 M3 times 18. So we're going to need M3 times 18 because we're using the new part. If you've got the old parts, you're using the M3 times 10. If you got the new part, you need 4 M3 times 18. I think they provide both in this package. So there's my 4 M3 times 18, and then I need 4 M3 regular nuts. One, 2, 3, and last one, 4. All right, so now we want to grab our x-axis assembly. Rotate it onto its backside so that it is facing top towards us. We want to put the nuts into their home. So there's one nut that goes in, 2, and there it is right there. So we need 1 nut to go into the slot inside of there, which is kind of difficult to get into with my fat fingers. So let's see. I'm going to kind of use the same process that we were using before. Just get it partially threaded on there. No, I don't think that's going to work. Nope, yep, it does. We can get my finger on there, unscrew it, slide it the rest of the way in. That worked out perfect. So doing the same thing we did before, where we just took the screw and get it started into the slot. Get your finger on it to hold in the slot, undo the screw, and push it the rest of the way in with an Allen key. Worked out perfect. And then this piece goes into this hole here. This one's a little bit more difficult to get into. Let me go ahead and thread it onto a bolt or screw. Yep, that worked great. Now we can go ahead and put the trapezoidal nut onto the apart. Get these screws started. There and there. And then we repeat the same process on the other side. Let's do the same thing again. Get that in there. Get that held in place with my thumb. Yeah, just slid right in. Beautiful. Do the same thing here with this bolt. Or nut, whatever we call it. YouTube still hasn't caught up for some reason. It's just not refreshing. There we go. All right, now we can turn it back to the side carefully. Get our trapezoidal nut into place. There it is. And 3 times 18. Get that one in. So these screws, obviously you want them to just be just barely tight because your plastic trapezoidal nuts and plastic part going into a metal nut. You don't want to over tighten it and break any of these pieces. He says as he goes back and tightens things. Okay. That's all into place there. So I found it easier. I think you talked about it earlier, Flavors, that at this point we should put the threaded or the smooth rod in and then put it all on there. I really found it a lot easier to do it the other way with the other one. So I want to kind of show you how I did it on the other one. I can't remember if you were on that stream or not, but I found this just way easier to do because you don't have to worry about things flopping around. You don't have to worry about possibly deforming any of the bearings while you're doing this. So you get the make sure the motor is on the left side and get the threaded rod so that it's sitting on the trapezoidal nuts, and you want to try to turn them equally as best as possible. See, because right now having to turn these with rods in the way would be pretty difficult to do. And then now that I can get it on there, want it to be, the next picture shows here, we want it to be parallel with the lower edge of the frame, top of the frame. Give it a little bit of a gap and try to make it as parallel as possible so that when we're threading them in, they're good. All right, so now we're going to get our last 2 smooth rods out. There's our last 2 smooth rods. And right here, now please very careful, gently insert the remaining smooth rods through the bearings on the x-axis all the way down into the printed part. Do not apply too much force and do not tilt the rods. So we basically want to drop these straight in. So if we can get these started straight, again, if you feel any resistance, stop. They should just kind of go straight through. So like I feel a little bit of resistance right there. So I want to back it up a little bit, twist a little. Shouldn't need much pressure at all. I'm going to try the other side. So the other one was way easier. My other printer, my other Mk3. See, that one was like super simple. It just went right through, no problem. And then it just goes right into its home. You just press it down, and there you go. Easy. This one was the one giving me a little bit of problems here. There we go. It just went straight through. Didn't have to any pressure. It just went into its home. And then, yep, down and down. So they mentioned that the XN motor mount and everything might be slightly different, but the process is exactly the same. So now we need our Z-axis top, left, and right, and 4 M3 times 10 screws. So I believe that's all that's left in this bag, correct? Yep, 4 M3 times screws, and then we need our Z-axis tops. And these are, again, they're not the same part. So when you're looking at these parts, there's going to be this larger part here. That's where the this larger hole. This is where the threaded rod's going to go into, and it kind of sits in there, not captive, not being held into place, but it keeps it from wobbling around too much. And then this is the smaller hole. This is where the smooth rod's going to go into place. So you want to make sure that matches up on each side there. And then in step 9, we place it on the left and then the right, but make sure the holes all align. So we make sure that our smooth rod goes into place and the threaded rod goes into its home. And then we can get the screws screwed into the frame that is threaded in these places. Stand up and look down, so if my head comes into frame, I apologize. I want to make sure I'm starting that straight. Yeah, I gotta say, even my mouse right at the mic, sorry. I gotta say that even up here, these screws are pretty tough to start, but once you get them started, they screw in pretty easily. I do need the extension for this one. Right here is where this screwdriver, or this driver with the hex bits, it's going to make this process a little bit easier. I just wish they were magnetic. I could have swore I ordered a magnetic one, but again, don't think I think I maybe we're confusing it with one that I was looking at buying too. Let's see if I can get my finger in there. There we go. And once you get it into the frame, it's way easier. Where did that little, oh, I'm using it there. So let me just use one of these. Just need a little extra torque. That's good. All right, now let's get this other side in. So get the smooth rod popped into place, threaded rods in place. Go ahead and get the screw into place. Can't see, so my head pops into frame again. think this bit's starting to wear down. Not happy about that. Yeah, that bit's starting to get really worn down. That sucks. Let me pull out these guys. Sucks. Where is... All right, so that's all nice and tight up in there. So let's get that out of the way. And yep, we got all that in. Different X carriage design, which we have the right. I have the right one, not the left one. It's the new design. So we're going to skip to step 11. So step 11, we're going to start running the belts. The belt. So we want to rotate this down as evenly as possible by hand to give us some space to work with. I think that's good there. We don't need to worry about aligning that bearing yet because we're not putting the back plate on yet. We run this belt through. So GT2 belt. And the way we start it is right here in the picture. We start on looking from the back side, which is the way I'm faced here. We start with the channel from the back side, place the belt all the way to the end here, around that 90-degree curve, and then down that slope, and slide it into where all the teeth match up. And then we could take one of our smaller Allen keys here, Allen wrenches, and make sure that's all slid all the way in, because once this is seated in, we don't need to mess with this one anymore. This one stays. When we tension it, we're going to be tensioning it from the other side. All right, so that is started in there, and then now we're going to wrap it around our idler bearing. We're going to feed it through above the bearing. Pull it all the way through. Make sure it's not twisted. Grab it and wrap it underneath the bottom. Make sure it's not twisted. And then, of course, according to the instructions, the next picture, we need to run it through its little channel that it runs through there, which we can adjust here in a little bit because we want to make sure we run it through the... I don't know why I have the machine so far away from me. There we go. Run through the motor bearing side, or the motor side. Oh, come on. There we go. Wrap it around. Pull all the way through, then wrap it around the top of the tooth gear. Put it back through this channel. And tooth gear to go. Make sure the tooth side is down and aligned with the teeth of the gear. And now we're back to, so here we go. We're back to this part here. So now we want to undo the screws of the top two screws of the motor mount. There it is. And it shows us loosening them all of the way, but leaving them in the printed part. So you want them out of the motor, but out of the printed part. And then you want the bottom screw loose enough so that the motor twists, as you can see there. You kind of let it rest like that for a sec. And then we're going to, before you continue the guide develop across that, rotate the x-axis. Motor is indicated towards the frame, so we actually want it to be up and towards the frame. So this is down and away from the frame. We want it up and towards the frame, and it'll actually hit the frame there. And then insert the flat part of the GT2 belt into the X carriage as shown here. Use a screwdriver, a small Allen key to push the belt in. I'm going to grab my flathead screwdriver because this is easier to do with the flathead screwdriver. While we're back here, we're going to make sure that the belt is traveling on the correct path here. And as we pull the belt, the motor will pull towards the frame, which it is. And we want to, there will be an overhang on the side. Don't trim it yet. Insert the flat part of the GTX belt into the X carriage as in the second picture. Use the right hand rotating. We'll wait till read this next part using two fingers. In the left hand, push the belt together. Very small force should be needed for the bending of the belt, but the belt shouldn't be bent on its own weight. Before being pressed with your fingers, it must be straight. Okay, so I do want to get it pretty tight. That screwdriver. That screwdriver is not working better than an Allen key. Thought it would. So let me go back to the Allen key method. Oh, that's too big. This one, there it is. Allen key. So I want to get this pushed into the extruder mount part here really good, because you don't want it slipping out of this part. But we're not trimming it yet, just like the instructions say. Okay, so that's good. So it's not bowing in on itself on its own weight. But I'm going to use my two fingers to pinch it together. I'll use the right hand and rotate it to its original position until tension is applied. And then, yeah. So if I'm struggling, it says the belt tension is too high. I'm not struggling, but it's not easy either. Yeah, that's actually really easy once I get the right angle at it. And that feels like good tension there. So now we're going to tighten the screws back. So this is where I majorly messed up on one of those last streams. Is the right coming up here soon, because I messed up on the tensioning part here and broke this piece. If that happens again, the stream's over with for tonight. I'm not gonna go back and redo it tonight. I will redo it. I'm just not gonna do it tonight. But hopefully we don't do that again. So let's go ahead and tighten these all back down. Again, I'm not going to tighten them all the way down because I'm just going to end up loosening them up again. Just going to get them so that they're snug and to the plastic. Again, once again, being careful not to cross the threads on the motor. Aligning the x-axis, new design. Both top and bottom part of the belt should be parallel from each other. To adjust the belt position, release the screw on the pulley. So we're gonna get our eye down the sight line of this opening here and move it back and forth. And it looks like everything is straight aligned with the belt. See any travel or movement. Everything looks aligned. So that looks good. As you can see in step 15, yellow arrows and everything like that. So then, using the technique described below to test if the belt is properly stretched, use pliers to hold the x-axis motor. And doing the same thing we did with the y-axis. I'm going to use my, those pliers here, grab the shaft on the flat edge. We're going to try and move the extruder body plate here, and I'm not getting any play whatsoever. Not getting any buckling of the belt. I was pulling pretty darn hard there, at least as hard as I was doing with the y-axis. Just no leverage, and I'm not getting any bowing of the belt and no slipping of teeth. Beautiful. For the following step, we recommend getting a white marker, but you can also trim the belt without it. Measure the part which must be trimmed and gently take the end of the belt. See, I don't need to do that with my side cutters because I can just trim it right in place. So where did they go? There they are. So I don't want to cut it too short, but it's that tooth right there that needs to be cut. So I can just, if I do cut it too long, then I can just trim a little bit more off. Perfect. I do need to trim one more tooth off. Get all the way through that one. Pull out just a smidgen here. Thought I got it, didn't get it. Started to get it. Come on, there it is. Yep, got it. Boat can go into its home now. Where's that flight screw? There it is. Make sure that's all the way in. All right, that's all the way in. All right, so fine-tuning the x-axis belt new design. So this is where I messed up last time. So I'm going to step through this very, very, very carefully. So in this step, we will finish tensioning the belt. Please read the instructions. First, your belt might have proper tension already. First, slightly release all of the screws holding the motor. Otherwise, the upper tensioner won't work. The motor must be able to move. So basically, we need to loosen these, all three basically. Tension, be very careful while tightening. You can crack the part if you over tension. So I'm actually going to loosen. I'm not going to use that. I'm going to use this because I can't get as much tension on this. There we go. So it's that way's loose, the other way's tight. Using Allen key, start tightening the M3x18 screw inside the XN motor, but after each turn or two, check the tension in the belt. In step 14, you are asked to have the belt a bit less stretch. However, for the optimal performance, the belt must be a bit harder to press with your fingers. Move the X carriage all the way to the XN idler. And try the belt tension in the middle of the axis. So we're going to go and move that all the way over there. For right now, we achieve optimal tension. Please tighten the screws again. So, in case you experience x-axis failure during calibration or skip layers in the x direction, you can adjust the screw accordingly. Tightening the screw stretches the belt. Releasing the screw has opposite effect. Each time, don't forget to release the screws on the motor first. So that's actually not too bad. It actually sounds almost perfect, but it needs to be a little tighter according to them. So I'm going to loosen these up. We're not taking them out, we're just loosening them so the motor can move. And then we're going to take this screw. It's not even down touching it yet, so I'm going to get it down there to touch it. I think that's touching it now. So now that's touching it now. So there we go. It's a tiny bit tighter. Let's do another quarter turn. That's not much tighter. Maybe it's not touching it yet. Or is it? Yeah, it is. It's hard to see it moving. Oh yeah, that's a good bit tighter. There. Oh yeah, I like that. That feels good. So now I'm going to tighten the motor mounts back down. And now that I feel like I got that tension down to a good spot, I'm going to go ahead and get these motor screws all the way tight. There we go. That feels good. All right. Now we can skip all the way down to step 25 because that's the old design there. So Z-axis is finished. Time for another gummy bear. You still have some, right? Check the final look. Compare it to the picture. So let me go ahead and get it to similar orientation. Let me get it to you guys. Orientation. And this is going to be it for the night. I'm just going to do this last double check here. And I'll do, we'll talk more about that in a second, but let me get the screen switched over. Front, there we go. So let's see if I can get the orientation in the front. I think I actually have, there we go. Chat's kind of in the way there. Is that the right orientation? It's the opposite orientation. Anyway, so this is close enough. That's the right orientation right there. They're just lower to the ground. All right, so we've got our bed all nice and assembled. Everything is smooth. And we've got our X carriage assembled and everything seems smooth. We've got our Z-axis on here and moving manually anyway. We've got all this tightened up. We've got that bearing tightened up, or this tooth gear tightened up, this tooth gear tightened up. That's all good. These are all tight. This is all zip tied into place. I could trim that one a little bit more right there. Trim the zip tie just a tiny bit more. That one flying somewhere over there. And that's it. So we'll move on with more steps. I'm going to try to stream tomorrow night. Normally I only stream on Mondays and Tuesdays, but I think I'm going to have the opportunity tomorrow night to do some streaming. I don't want to overpromise anything. I don't know as of yet. I've got to see how tomorrow unfolds for me and the family. But I do plan on it. The next steps are going to be, some of the more complicated ones. What's the next step? It's the extruder access. So the extruder took me a while last time. Obviously I haven't experienced doing this extruder once already. It should be a little bit quicker this time. So definitely something that, I hope won't take me as long, and I'll be able to get through more. But once the extruder is done, then everything kind of just falls into place after that. The hooking up the NC board and the wiring is a little difficult, but again, I have an experience doing it recently, very recently, as in like a week ago today. Should kind of fly by. So anyway, so Flavors, thanks as always for joining, my friend. I appreciate it. I know I saw your message last stream yesterday that you subscribed since my Mk2S build. So I definitely appreciate you staying a subscriber this whole time, one of the few that I have, and joining me again for these fun builds. Going through the trials, tribulations, fun, success, learning process that these things are. But if you anybody else who's watching this, recording, thank you for watching. If you like this kind of content, obviously subscribe for more. Hit that like button. If you don't like it, hit that dislike button. If you have any questions, you can email me at themakerjeremy@gmail.com, or leave it in the comments. I try to respond to any comments I get. Obviously I don't get a whole lot, so usually works out pretty well. You're building miners, like as in like Bitcoin miners? Yeah, cryptocurrency. Yeah, you're building them out of GPUs, or are you building them out of like pies and stuff like that? Isn't cryptocurrency kind of lost some of its fame? I know it's gonna stick around for a while. There's a whole out of GPUs, like as in GPUs, or I asked two different things. I guess I should ask one question at a time, because that GPU. Okay, so. I watched Linus Tech Tips, and they got their hands on one of those NVIDIA mining only video cards, and they used it to actually run graphics off of, even though it has no video out. It was a hacking driver situation, but it worked because a lot of those GPU mining only, cryptocurrency mining only cards, because they don't have video out, they're very cheap. Because a lot of people are getting out of it. I know it's going to stay around for a while. Cryptocurrency is going to be around for a while. There's a whole section of the internet that uses it. It's the unsavory side of the internet, but but anyway, so we won't get into a cryptocurrency discussion at all. So, but that's fantastic. You should stream something about it if you know some information that would be fun for the public and for everybody to share and know and get interested in it, because obviously if you've got a job building cryptocurrency miners, and you get people interested in it, just means more jobs for you. So but anyway, so as for the rest of the stream, again, thank you for showing up, and like, dislike, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I'll try to post on Facebook if I'm going to be doing a stream tomorrow night or not. But other than that, be nice to each other, love each other more, use your turn signals, all that nice jazz. And thanks again for joining. Have a wonderful night.